The sixth beatitude is found in Matthew 5 and verse 8, and it reads, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." Now this phrase, pure in heart, may seem like an abstract or esoteric concept, but it's actually quite simple. To be pure in heart means to have a simple-minded devotion to God, free from the distractions and temptations of the world. It means to seek God's will above all else and to put His desires before our own. When we do this, we're able to see God more clearly and experience His presence more deeply. So what does it mean to see God? Well, some might interpret this verse as a literal vision of God's physical form, but this is not what Jesus meant. Instead, seeing God refers to a spiritual awareness and an understanding of God's nature and His character. Friends, when we are pure in heart, we are able to discern God's will and to understand His ways. We're able to recognize His presence in our lives and experience the joy and the peace that comes from knowing Him. But how do we become pure in heart? Now that's quite a difficult task, and one that requires a constant effort to resist the temptations that come our way. The world is always trying to shift our focus, trying to turn our hearts away from God. But one way that we can cultivate purity of heart is through prayer and meditation upon the will of God. When we take the time to quiet our minds and focus upon God and find ways to tune out the distractions of the world and draw closer to God, we will find a true blessing. The psalmist writes in Psalm 51 and verse 10, "Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me." This is a prayer that we can offer to God as we seek to become more pure in heart. But another way to cultivate purity of heart is through acts of service and love. When we put the needs of others before our own needs and we seek to serve them with pure motives, then we're reflecting the selfless love of God. In James 1 and verse 27, we're encouraged to care for the widows and the orphans, and in doing so, to keep ourselves unspotted or unpolluted from the world. Now this passage highlights the connection between our actions and the condition of our hearts. When we serve others with pure motives, we're not only helping them, but we're also growing in purity of heart. Now it's important to note that purity of heart is not something we can achieve on our own. We are all imperfect and prone to sin, and we inevitably will fall short of God's standards, but through the sacrifice of Jesus, we're able to receive forgiveness and be made pure in God's sight. Friends, it's only through His grace and mercy that we're able to approach Him with a pure heart. In Romans 3:23 and 24, the Apostle Paul writes, "For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, and all are justified freely by His grace through the redemption that came by Christ Jesus." This passage reminds us that we are all in need of God's grace and mercy. No, we cannot earn our way into purity of heart. It's a gift that we receive through faith in Jesus Christ. And as we receive God's grace and seek to become more pure in heart, we're called to live in a way that reflects His love and righteousness. In 1 John 3, verses 2 and 3, we read, "Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But we know that when Christ appears, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. All who have this hope in Him purify themselves just as He is pure." Friends, this passage reminds us that our ultimate goal is to be like Christ, who is the embodiment of purity and righteousness. And as we purify ourselves through faith in Him, we're able to see God more clearly and experience the fullness of His love and grace. But in conclusion, the sixth beatitude offers to us a powerful reminder of the importance of purity of heart in the Christian life. When we seek to be pure in heart, we're able to discern God's will and experience His presence more deeply. No, this is not an easy task, and it does require a constant effort to resist the temptations of the world and to focus our hearts and minds upon God. But through prayer, through acts of service and love, and through faith in Jesus Christ, we are able to receive God's grace and become more like Him. And as we do, we're blessed with the promise that we will see God and experience the fullness of His love and grace. Friends, we want to thank you for joining us for our program today, and may God bless you with a wonderful day.